everyone, I'm Nikki Haverstock and this is the AuthorTube portion of my YouTube channel. I am a self-published mystery author and my books are down in the links if you want to check them out and see if I have anything worth saying. So this is a recommendation. This is, I had asked for recommendations for topics, and so someone had mentioned killing your darlings. This is not something that I talk about a lot, but it is very popular advice, and if you're not familiar with the phrase kill your darlings, it means getting rid of something in your work, a storyline, a character, a scene, something that you love, 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 but to make the book better. And it's seen as sort of this like, can you kill your darlings? You know, oh, if you do, then you're a real writer. I always say real writer because I always feel like there is a lot of baggage around that term. So I'm going to talk about, it took me a while to kind of warm up to this topic. And I have some stuff that I think it's very likely I'll get pushback on at least one of these areas. And like always, with all my videos, I am not saying that you have to do this. I'm not saying here's a checklist to make you a real author. You get to make the decision for yourself, or your agent if you're going traditional. That's why I'm self-published. But you are the general manager of your career. And no matter what a YouTube channel says, or I say, or anyone else says, it's your decision. So the first thing is that I want to talk about is deleting a scene for pacing. I think this is a really common one. It can also be a storyline that you delete. It has a lot to do with pacing. And it's a lot of times when we construct stories and then you go back and read it, you're like, there can be a scene that just, and the whole storyline stops dead. When I've had to remove scenes from books, and a lot of them were scenes that I really liked. I thought they were funny, but my editor came back to me and said, it just stops the story dead. You have all this action going, all this forward momentum. We want to see the mystery solved, and then you have this scene where they're trying on a dress, and it's funny, but it's just not a lot. So it can be, removing things for pacing tends to be a big one. I'm going to say another one, which is something clever that nobody else gets. And this can be, I think, especially in mystery type books or horror books, you can have some elements, some character, no one else. For me, it's usually jokes that I think are really funny. I think they're a particularly clever line. And my editor will come back and be like, I don't understand this, or it's really mean, which is always hard to understand because a lot of times it's something that my husband has said to me or I've said to my husband and we thought was so funny we fell on the floor laughing, and then I'm like, how could you not see the humor? But a lot of times that's where we get it, is when people don't get our insane brilliance. And I know that's a hard thing. Something you can do with both of these two examples is you can cut and paste into a document so that one day you'll use it. Most likely you'll never use it, but I will say that one of the difficult things about writing is you can think of the only useful writing is the writing that goes into a published book, but it's not. It's like working out. You are stronger because of it, even if you cut it later on. Now, with both of these points, I kind of want to have a sub point, which is this is why you should work with editors you trust. This is why I would say that the most important thing with an editor is that you're working with someone who you really believe in them, because if you trust them, you really, really trust them, and they come back to you and they say, I don't get this. And you know that they're smart, they're capable, they normally get your sense of humor, which is a big thing in my case. They get what you're trying to do. When they come to you and say, I'm not getting it, you can trust them. You can trust them in this sense. And maybe sometimes the not making sense means that you rewrite it. And I've done that with my editor. I love my editor. She's wonderful. She took me on as a client when I still needed a lot of work. She taught me a lot. She really believes in my vision. I picked her because I had read books that she had edited and I thought they were very good. There weren't huge glaring plot holes that I didn't understand. So sometimes when she comes to me and says, I don't understand this, I'll rewrite it. I'll rewrite it with her feedback in mind of why she doesn't understand it. Sometimes I'll even write her and say, can you tell me more about what you don't get? I'll rewrite it, I'll send it back to her and I'll say, I tried to rewrite it with your, if you still don't think it hits the point, let me know. And sometimes she'll come back and she'll say, oh, that's much better, which always makes my heart feel good. That's much better. I get what you were going for now. Now it makes sense to me. Now I get, especially when you don't want to, info dump, or you want to leave a mystery for later on, or you want to just not hit people over the head with what you're trying to say. You want to just let them come to it themselves. A lot of times you can miss a step and they all fall off a bridge. Okay, that happens. But this is where having an editor who really believes in your work and believes in you, and I wouldn't work with an editor who thought I was a moron. That's just, that's not even vanity. I don't care if they're the best editor in the world. They don't get what I'm trying to do. They're of no use to me. So that's why it's useful to work with an editor who you believe in and believes in you. Because then when they come to you and they say, this doesn't make sense, you can believe them because you know that they're looking out for you. So those are kind of some very typical kill your darlings. I'm going to introduce some kill your darlings that are not as often discussed. I'll go with an easy one, which is killing your darlings, things that are outside the genre that you intend to publish your book as. This can be things like, this is a very, very common scenario. I don't know if it's as common now, but when I started, it was very common because romance makes a lot of money. There are a lot of romance writers who are killing it. And what you would hear a lot, and I literally had people that I saw post this, which is, I want to write a romance because they make so much money. I don't really read them, but it sure seems easy. Okay, if you're a romance writer, your head probably on fire. If you're not a romance writer, that might not make sense to you, so let me explain what happened. Usually what happens is they don't really understand what makes a good romance, and so they think it's just two people getting together, breaking up and getting back together. Or not. Maybe they decided they think it's more romantic, little r, to have the hero die at the end and sacrifice himself for his, they go, oh, well, the greatest romance of all time is Romeo and Juliet, so I'm going to do that. That is not a romance with a capital R. And so not really understanding the romance genre. Now, this is true of every genre. Every genre, if I went and I talked to someone who was really big in that genre, they're going to should be equally as passionate about the rules in their genre. And every genre has rules. Some of them are really hard and fast, like have to have a happily ever after or happy for now, which is romance. Some of them are more like fantasy has different types of rules. They don't tend to have a story structure rule. Some of the genres do, subgenres do, but they might have elements. And so if you're looking for a fantasy reader, there's going to be things that they... epic fantasy, you want a huge world. This needs to be an immersive world. So anyway, I'm not going to go into all the different genre rules, but another way to kill your darling is something that might technically be good but doesn't work for the genre. I've known cozy mystery authors who want to have a lot of language and on-page sex, and I'm not saying that's a bad book, but that does not fit the genre. And so getting rid of things that don't fit the genre rules can be another darling that you have to kill. And that can be something that people push back on a little bit more. And the last one, and this is the one I expect to get some pushback on, is dated stereotypes or words. So I hear it all the time. People saying, oh, you might not want to use that word anymore. It has a different connotation now. And people saying, I will not be censored. This is another kill your darling. This is a thing. First of all, this is how I handle it. I want to make sure that the words that I'm using evoke the right image in my reader's head. If this word has, over the past 10, 20, 30 years since maybe I learned it, changed its connotation, then I don't want younger readers, because I obviously believe my books are good. I don't want younger readers to read the word and have a different mental connotation than what I intended. Okay, and I've had this fight with authors all over the place. I've had, and this can pop up. This can pop up, there's a big, huge song that comes out that uses the word that let's use the word gnarly, okay? Not a word that I know has any negative connotations now. When I was a kid, it's the kind of things that surfers would say. No, that's the wicked gnarly man, like that kind of thing. Now, all of a sudden, if a movie came out, it was the #1, all of the young kids watched it, and gnarly meant, I don't know, hates cheesecake. you know, that might not be an effective word to use anymore, because whenever I try have this surfer guy, they think it means hate cheesecake, and now it's really confusing. So there you go. So I'm going to say I have my opinions on it, but that falls into the same category as kill your darlings. This is a word that maybe when you used it, maybe it wasn't so great when you used it back when you were a kid and you didn't realize it. Or maybe the word has changed meanings. But this seems to be one that I will meet people and they will push back on this. They of course consider themselves to be these amazing writers, but they're not willing to change one word. This is my attitude. I know thousands of words. I bet you do too. I mean synonyms. Like if I was to say, I'll pay you $1 million to describe a beautiful woman in 200 different ways. You can call her beautiful. You could call her lovely, pretty, cute. You could use similes. You can use metaphors. If I said I'd pay you $1 million to do 200 to describe her in 200 ways, and I gave you a day, I bet you could do it, because you're a good author and you can think of a lot of different ways. So my attitude with it is always, I'm a good enough author to figure out a way to have the same point come across with different language. That is my point. Now you might be saying, that's it, you're a censorist, this is the last kill your darling. At least listen for this last one, which is, maybe you don't need to kill your darling. That's my final kill your darling, the darling that you should kill is the idea of kill your darling. And this is going to kind of undo everything else I said, which is sometimes maybe you should stick to your gun. Maybe that additional timeline or scene or pace or character or element or the word you used or anything, maybe you should fight for it. And that you may see, if you haven't watched any of my videos, you might be like, what are you doing? Why did you just give me 4 rules and then have the 5th rule be maybe the first rules don't exist? And it's because that is the reality of publishing. That is the reality of writing. I can tell you that you absolutely should listen to your editor all the time, but sometimes your editor is wrong. And I know a lot of people who have, a lot of people put elements into their books that are not in the genre or are very risky, and they do it for a very personal reason. They have, my books are, even for my genre, sometimes a little wholesome. I'm not going to say that I'm wholesome, but that's the writing that I want to do. Not all the time. You can read some of my books and some of them have sex jokes and this and that. But for me, it's a line that I walk and I'm comfortable with. A lot of people, if someone said, I want to write a romance, but she's going to be with 2 guys, and she's going to time travel. And I'm like, I don't understand. Is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Is it a love story? And you go, no, it's kind of not any of those. I just feel really strongly. Well, that's Outlander. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the book. I haven't read it, but a lot of other people have. So the idea is, sometimes you have to stick to your guns, and that's just what it is. And so that's kind of why I didn't go crazy in for this topic originally, is because so much of I feel like the answer is, it depends. So know what your risks are, know what the potential reward is, and decide if that's a risk you want to take. And that is all of publishing. You can write boring, buy the book, never take a risk book for the rest of your career and never break out. You could also only take risks and never break out. And that's the reality of publishing. When I started, I thought all the rules were so confusing and conflicting. And then about a year in, I thought, I have got this figured out. And then the longer I've gone on the way, everything's gone back to confusing and weird. And sometimes you have to follow, sometimes you have to write a children's book that's 800 pages. And sometimes you have to mash up 2 genres. Sometimes you have to break the rules. I mean, so I hope that the underlying theory of what I'm saying is coming through, and why sometimes you have to sacrifice stuff and why sometimes you have to stick to your guns. So tell me about the darlings that you've killed. Times that you wouldn't kill a darling. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about a time that you will stick to your guns even if they tell you that that you're taking a risk. Tell me about the risk that you're going to take. Otherwise, stay safe. Bye.